I'm happy to join Drew Ferguson, who is the head coach of the Canadian men's national para soccer team, and Samuel Charron. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yep.
Who's the captain of the team? Welcome, guys, and it's good to see you. And I think I know I've connected with both of you on social media for a while, and in the past I know I'd worked with a couple of players, Drew, from the team, not with Samuel, but a couple others that I knew had played there. So it's nice to meet you, virtually, and welcome. Thank you for being here. Sorry for the technical delays, but hopefully we can have a good discussion. I thought maybe we could start for whoever's watching here live, and also, anyone who watches the video. Maybe we could start because probably not everybody knows exactly what is the Canadian men's national para soccer team, and what in what competitions do you compete, and what are the kind of the, I guess we could say, criteria in terms of players getting into the team.
Okay, I'll let Sammy try to have a go at that, and then we'll
Oh.
step in if we missed anything. How's that?
Uh, so the competitions right now that we take a part in, we have our own 4-year cycles because we're not participating in the Paralympics at the moment. We're not. The sport has been kicked out since 2016. But we have our own world championships, our own World Cup per se, and a few tournaments here and there. And then we obviously have the PanAms that are coming up in a week. And criterias, that's probably more of a question for Drew. But as for tournaments go, it's pretty much we have a tournament every year, basically. And that helps us to qualify for the World Cup is the big one for us. And the PanAms is a step into qualifying for things as well. And we have tournaments to qualify for the PanAms as well.
Yeah, so I'll just jump in there if I can. So yeah, so Sammy's correct. Um, One of the greatest things about the para program, compared to say potentially our men's or boys under 17 national team or the youth programs, is no matter what, we have an international event every year. And as Sam says, they all are qualifiers to get to the World Cup. So again, there's a World Cup, there's World Championships, there's the Para Pan Ams, and then there's also what we call the regionals, which is our region is exactly the same as Para Pan Ams. It's not CONCACAF, but it's the Americas. So we are competing against Brazil's, Argentina's, Venezuela's, Colombia's, and all them. So it's a very tough region, but so no matter what, every single year we get an international event, which is brilliant for the players. Great experience. We get more experience than probably a lot of other programs when the kids are young. So yeah, it's very exciting.
Great, yeah. So I guess then the next question becomes: I know, Sam, you mentioned that the sport is not part of the Olympic Games, and that happened recently. Did you guys were you still involved with the team prior to that? And can you comment on maybe why was that decision made, or what was what were the
Um,
circumstances?
I'm not sure why. I don't have the specifics. Maybe Drew can touch on that after, but um, yeah, I've been in the program now for 12 years. So 2012 was my first tournament. And yeah, the cycle, like the Paralympic Games in 2016, that was the last time the sport took part in them. Basically, I had a 4-year cycle in trying to qualify for that,
Hmm.
and we missed it. It was a tough one, but I don't know specifically on the specifics of why, but maybe I don't know if Drew has a little bit more information than I do, but yeah, it's a tough one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the last Paralympics was in, I believe it was London, which was a huge success. I was there actually watching, and yeah, the football was brilliant. They were sold out to whatever it was, 22,000 people every single game, and yeah, it was an amazing show. And then and we haven't been, the sport of seven-side football hasn't been in since. As most people would know, the Olympic and the Paralympic and their programs, they have different sports trying to get in every year and out. You're only allowed so many players or participations or participants. So, rowing may come in, soccer may go out, ping pong may come in, and those may go out. And when we were removed, we were quite shocked, considering it's the biggest sport in the world. So not sure why. We have all kinds of stories, which I definitely don't want to get into because obviously could get into trouble with that. But yeah, they've gone through court. They've done a lot of things to try to get it back and find out why. And the IPC's just hasn't moved on it. So we'll just keep trying and fighting for it. And it is the best sport in the world, and the soccer and the parasites the best sport in the world as far as we're concerned. And yeah, so when we're playing in South America or Europe and that, there's thousands of people come out to watch it and they want to see it. It's quality football and it's great. So we do have our World Cups and World Championships, and in my world the World Cups is huge, but in the Paralympic world the Paralympics is huge, right? So hopefully we get back in soon because I'm about 135 years old now and coming to a closing to my coaching in this little world. But yeah, so it's not easy there's no doubt about it because everybody wants in and nobody wants out, right? So yeah, we're hoping for the United States that we might have a crack at it. So I don't think it's been confirmed yay or nay yet, but I'm not overly positive, but knock on wood. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Drew, thank you for that answer. And to be honest, that was why I asked, because it seems, I mean, I could understand some other sports maybe not being included in Paralympic Games, the sports that aren't played, by the whole world, sports that are not the most popular in the world. But I guess, yeah, I understand. Perhaps there's other forces at play that maybe you can't get into. But now you mentioned, and again, perhaps this is also important for anyone watching and anyone who doesn't know or doesn't maybe follow necessarily, para soccer in general. It's 7-a-side, right?
Right.
What are the other, let's say, rules that are different from
Well,
soccer, football that we're used to watching?
Yeah, you talk about it. It's a funny game. It's because it's
Yeah.
they play 7-a-side, but it's on a monstrous field. It's
Right.
86 yards, I believe, by 56 yards, I believe. It varies a little bit. Um, Throw-ins because some athletes will have CP in one hand, so you can actually bowl. You got to down by your knee. You can bowl the ball in instead of throwing with both hands.
Okay.
Our goals are 6 foot high and 18 foot wide versus the regular size, and there's no offsides. So I've been pushing for offsides ever since I've been in a bit, but they believe, and it's a good point, that the game is more exciting because it's wide open. So people are just flying up. I mean, you're talking 6 people on a huge field with a keeper. You're talking about have to be fit to play that game. Yeah, you can't. I mean, I always sort of make a joke when you watch you're watching the English Premier League and somebody gets knocked down and he's lying on the ground for 2.5 minutes. Well, if a para player lied on the ground for 2.5 minutes, it'd be like a power play in hockey. The other team would be playing. It's just how it is, right? And it's a massive field, so you can't hide when you're on a 7-a-side on a big field. There's no doubt about it. If you're not doing the business, you won't be out there too long. And it's so fitness is huge. It's very very quick, fast, well played, and because there's 3 different disabilities class wise, we've got some people playing professional soccer. There's, England's got a couple of guys who play in the Championship League. Russia, Ukraine's, Brazil's got professional players playing in professional soccer, but they qualify for the pair they're playing. So a lot of players across the world, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, we could comfortably play in MLS or definitely in the Canadian Premier League. Sammy could play in the Canadian Premier League, I believe. I don't think that's an issue. So yeah, the level's good on a big field, and it's not too much of pass back to the keeper. It's pretty much flying back and forth. It's pretty entertaining.
Great, yeah, and I may want to come back to ask both of you guys a little more about the fitness, just on a personal note, because I'd be interested even on how you're training, and I know the title of our webinar today is preparing for the World Cup, so
Right.
I'd like to come back to ask you about that. But you also mentioned 3 different, I guess, classes of disabilities that sort of make a player eligible to play. So maybe if you could elaborate on that, I think it would be good for everyone to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sammy, you can have a try at that one again.
Please.
So right now, I know the rules change from every couple years, but right now we have FT1, an FT2, and an FT3. And technical terms, don't ask me, I'm not sure, but I'll give it a crack. So FT1s, they're affected on both of their legs and their arms. So they are the most affected out of all three classes. So typically movements, what I've noticed from teammates on the FT1 perspective is their feet are more like kind of pigeon-toed, where they're a little bit more inside. And FT2s are more like me, so one side of the body's affected. And yeah, so if you watch the sport, typically most of us are left-footed, whereas if you look at able-bodied, there's not a lot of left-footers, whereas in this sport, most of us at the FT2 level are left-footed. So I will not really use my right foot, if I'm being honest. But and then FT3s, technical term, I'm not sure again, but I think it's more along too many concussions or brain injuries, where they got affected into certain things, and they're limited into what they can do on a day-to-day basis, just on their mental side of their performances. And yeah, that's kind of what I know about, like I know about it and how I tell people, and I'm sure Drew's got the more technical side of it.
Yeah, so he's right. I mean, it's so the FT1 is correct. You know, I'm not sure if that phrase is correct anywhere, the pigeon toe look, but it's their hips, it's their gait that's affected. So they walk with their toes, say potentially pointed in a wee bit, but if the ball came to the right of them, they would not be able to open their gait where they could trap the ball with the inside of their foot. So
Right.
they play everything with the outside of their feet, basically, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, he's dead right there. The number two FT2s is what he explained. FT3 is again, you could have just mild CP without the acquired brain injury, so that could be an FT3. But most teams, including us, it's usually from somebody's had a car accident, or somebody's a bad accident in football, playing soccer, or any other thing like that, where he can still play at a high level, but his motor skills, maybe when he gets very, very tired, he may have little balance issues in that. It's to the naked eye, and it's kind of one of the one of the things from I believe why we're not Paralympics a little bit is because the naked eye looks at FT3s flying down that field and striking the ball as good as anybody in the English Premier League, et cetera, et cetera. And they're wondering why they're playing, right? And I think that could be an issue in one of the small time of why we were in that game. When I was in London, I went to as many sports as I could to cheer on all the Canadian athletes, and you could be in a swimming pool and the fans are there cheering on a person who might be an amputee with no arms, where he's been amputated with both arms or one leg, right? And the fans are loving it, and they're getting it's brilliant, and watching him go, and everybody's cheering for him, and then you come out and watch a soccer game, and it looks like you're watching the Championship League in England at times, right? So
like a regular match.
Yeah, so I think personally, I believe that's a bit of the issue, but we won't get back into that again. But yeah, so I mean, basically, it's all neurologic stuff. So if you have a stroke, which is most of our players on the left side, and a lot of times it's a stroke at birth or within the first year.
Mhm.
So CP is basically that, and then the acquired brain injuries is basically that too. They will be infected. If you tell them to close their eyes and do this and touch the nose, they'll miss their nose because but they can play. And I mean, Sammy can play. They can play. Top quality. So they're all the athletes, just sort of the same classification in as far as what they can do. FT3s can do more, probably. FT2s are there, and then the FT1s. And the FT1s, it's a lot of them end up playing in goal, just because the goals are a little smaller. So if you can find a big 6'3" guy that has limited movement but can still get down, and it might take him a little longer to get back up once he makes a save. But some do play out as well, and if you could find a secret weapon at an FT1 that can run very quick and play foot soccer, that would be a bonus, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And all three, are, can play. So there isn't any, let's say, limit to the number or anything, or
yeah, there is actually
okay.
right now there's you have to have at least one FT1 on the field.
Okay.
And you're only allowed one FT3 on the field.
Okay.
So you could play without an FT3, but you have to have an FT1 on the field. So so if you get a red card or vice versa, or that, you have to adjust your line because you have to put another FT1 on, or you have to take off an FT3 to put on an FT2. So it goes like that. We're in the middle, not we, but Canada, but our federation is now looking at going to a point system, like to match up with the rest of the Paralympic sports. So wheelchair basketball, wheelchair rugby, they're on a point system where you're allowed up to 15.5 points or something. So an FT1 could be a 1, or it could be a 1.5, and et cetera, right?
Right.
So you could pick your team on that. So then there wouldn't be limitations on how many threes or how many ones you have. So they're looking at moving that way, and we might hear a lot about that when we're in Santiago.
Interesting. Right. Yeah. So, okay. So that was a good background. And I think hopefully, people who are watching maybe have a better understanding of it. So now, our topic is about preparing for the World Cup. So maybe if you guys can let us know, how are things going? What did you do leading up to, qualification? How did qualification go? And from there,
I'll give you a quick breakdown, and then Sammy can, as a player, can tell you what they're doing and what they're up to. But so in Canada, for us, I mean, the Canadian Soccer Association is obviously, we're under that umbrella, and they've been great looking after us. But it's an expensive sport, same as the men's program, women's program. So usually, if we go to an event, it's about $140,000, which doesn't sound like a lot of money, but just one event for 2 weeks is $140,000 entry fees, hotels, flights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if we have a training camp where most of our training camps, we do it at TFCs right now, and sometime down at Oakville Soccer Center, just because we have more players in the Ontario region now than we have otherwise, so saving money on flights. But a training camp for 2 days is still $40,000, right? So we get one full camp in, and then I do a lot of flying around, checking on, we have ID camps. So we'll get the Ontario guys together for one day, and we'll have a couple training sessions, and then get the BC guys together, have a couple training sessions, get Montreal, do this type thing, right? So it's not the best preparation, but it's definitely the best that we can do, and we try to move forward from there. So it's difficult. It's not because we're not getting lots of money to do this. It's a big expense to do that. I mean, it's hard, right? And then we also have most of our players are married with kids, they're at full-time jobs, going to university, et cetera, et cetera. So now how do they get, they go to the World Cup, they have to take 3 weeks off. They might only get 3 weeks holidays, right? And the wife wants to know why they can't go to Mexico for a holiday because he's used up the holidays, et cetera, right? So big commitments from the players, and not so always easy seeing everybody at the same time. But we've been doing this since 2005, and then we've done very well that way. And hopefully down the road, there will be more funding down the road, and we can have maybe 1 or 2 partner camps. I laugh, in Ireland, who's ranked 7th in the world. I think Dutch is 6th in the world. I mean, they have training camps every weekend. They just get on a bike and ride about 30 miles, and they're all together, or catch a train, right? In Brazil, they train full-time year round. Argentina trains full-time all year round. Russia, Ukraine train full-time all year round. So the United States is obviously a big federation. They probably have about 8 one-week training camps a year. So we're at a disadvantage there, but we got advantage that we got big hearts, and we love each other, and we fight for each other, and we'll go at it again.
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned, and I know, in preparation to this, I did watch, a little bit what I could find, and I've seen, some of the quality. I've seen Sam play as well a bit, and so I know that the level, the talent of the players is very high. Are there any players in your team who are full-time professionals?
We've had, Sammy's sort of hanging in that world now, and
right.
He was back in Australia just last year playing, but he can tell you a bit about that.
Yeah.
We've had Trevor Stiles, who was he was a keeper, but and again he had 3 or 4 concussions in playing for LA and playing in BC and that. And we played him in goal, and we've played him out as a striker, and you know how well goalkeeper can strike balls. So he would score at will when we had him in that, and
right.
He's 6'2" or 6'3", big boy, right? So, but he's just had 2 children, so he's thinking about making a comeback, which would be a bonus. One of our FT3s actually has just had a baby, so he couldn't come on this trip because of that reason. So yeah, I mean, it's preparation is hard, but it's, it's not like they're all playing soccer 12, where I just fly to England and watch them play, see how they're doing, or fly there and see how they're doing. Some of them are at work and some of them are going to school and some are doing this and some are doing that. So yeah. But Sammy's he could play. There's no doubt about it. But he can tell you about his Australia experience because he just got back.
Tell
Yeah,
us, please.
so I think like just in preparation, right? It's just about getting as many touches as you can. So for me, it was I'm coaching as well at Ottawa TFC right now, and I'm playing with I trained with the 17-year-olds, the our elites. Like if I can find anywhere to get touches on the ball, that's pretty much what the preparation is, right? It's nothing of 7-a-side. It's all 11-a-side, right? So on the CP preparation side, there's not much you can do because we're all so far apart and I'm the only one in Ottawa. So it's very hard to get together with the guys. But as for preparation, just football related, I can get as many touches on the ball, and I play with my friends as well, like on a Sunday league, just having that fun, having those touches, just it as much as it's not the same, it's still the same because it's still football at the end of the day. You're still playing the game that you love, and the rules might be different, the way you play might be different, but you're still playing. So to me, as getting touches is important. And I was lucky enough to go to Australia a few months ago, and I just came back a couple months ago, just because the season's over there and it's overlapped because the seasons are different and things like that. But it was a good experience to have, and I'm hoping to go back soon and do like a full season there, because I know I've played there and it was only towards the end of the season, so I only played 5 or 6 games. So I want to experience, now that I know the experience, I can go through it in more properly and go through it right, do the whole preseason thing and go play the whole season. So hopefully I'm able to do that in the coming months. But again, it's just about playing, right? Just about getting your knowledge bigger on the game. Any game you watch, any game you play, like that's how you get ready for these tournaments. Because as much as you want to get together, right, like Drew said, it costs money. So what can you do by yourself that will get you prepared for the tournaments? And that's playing, watching, coaching, even any soccer related stuff that you could do will help you. As much as you think maybe not, well, it's the little things, and the little things add up, right? If you do little things here and there, that'll create a big thing to get you ready for these types of tournaments.
Right. Yeah. And so I know, I guess both of you sort of touched on it, and the challenges obviously that Canada has, whether it's budget and the traveling that would be involved to do training camps and all of that. So how competitive, despite these challenges, how competitive is Canada relative to, I know, Drew, you mentioned, let's say Argentina, Brazil, that have their national teams training camps all the time, and some of these other European countries. How competitive is Canada relative to some of the other top nations in the world?
Like, I think we're as competitive as any other country, right? When you put on the jersey, when you put on the crest and you have the Canada logo on your shirt, like, you're going to be as competitive as you can, right? So as on the competitive level side, I think we're up there with them, right? It's about just showing your heart, and like Drew said, we have the hearts, we have the drive to represent our country and do well for our country. So it's just about finding those opportunities. Like last year, we finished 9th in the World Cup, and we pulled off a big upset. We beat the Netherlands 1-0. So those games allow us, like, they show us that we can do it. They show us that it's possible. Like we always say, like, oh, it's always possible, but until you've done it, you kind of have that doubt in your mind where you're like, okay, well, maybe, like, we say we can do it, but when you actually do it, it's an experience that you can bring like that physical experience of beating the Netherlands means that upsets are possible in the game. And we see it through soccer at any level. Upsets are possible. So just about living one gets you the chance to take that and bring it to the next tournament. So it's just about those games, getting experience and seeing that it's physically possible to beat one of the bigger teams.
Right. Yeah, that's then Richard. He's right. I mean, if we go all the way back, Sam was. We've only got one player left in the program, so a lot of people don't know this. But in 2007, we actually won a bronze medal at the PanAms in Brazil, and we had nowhere near the quality that we have now. And we beat the USA in the bronze medal game, but they're obviously a lot stronger than they were back then as well. But the fact of life is, we pulled off a bronze medal with not a great pack of soccer players. We had some good athletes with CP, but not necessarily soccer players. Where now we're getting good athletes, but they're also very good soccer players. And there's a big difference between a good athlete, as you know, in any sport. You know, you could take a great athlete in football or something, say go play soccer, and they wouldn't have a clue. And it's exactly the same thing. A CP athlete could be world swimmer or basketball, whatever. But when you got in the soccer field, it's a different story. And I know fitness is what you love. And I'll tell you a short story, which is we were in Vancouver for a training camp, and I'm going to guess 2009 or 10 maybe. And we're checking into the hotel for a training camp in Vancouver, and the clerk behind the front desk had CP, and my assistant coach said to me, he said, "That got CP, that kid. Let's talk to him." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do it. Let's go." And we asked him if he's playing any sports, and he said, "I play basketball, I play football, I play lacrosse." I said, "Well, listen, these guys' CV. You want to come out for training camp?" He says, "Yeah." So the very next day, he's on the field with us, and I said, "No, I think it was the second day or first day he was there, but anyhow, it was a fitness day, which probably wasn't the best for him because." Yeah. And I said, "If you're not fit, just do what we can and take a break whenever you can." He said, no. He said, I'm good to go. And about 10 minutes later, he was unfortunately throwing up all over the soccer field. So,
right.
But so again, I'm just trying to say from, soccer on a big field is not a great game. And he ended up playing for us for 2 or 3 years. He was great. So, but that's the exact idea of what we're talking about right there.
An interesting form of recruiting, right?
Well, it's almost one of the only ways we do recruit, right?
Yeah.
We found, right. I mean, Sammy can tell you how we found him. He was we were having a training camp and he was playing soccer on another field, and we took a break, went over to watch him, and not him. We just went to watch the kids play soccer.
Right.
And again, my assistant coach said, "I think that boy's got CP," or right. So, and next thing you know, we've got one of the best players in the world. That's only because we just happen to be on that field, right? So, getting the words out very hard. This sounds weird, but I travel a lot, and when I'm at airports and planes and train stations, everywhere else, I'm peeking out the corner, watching people walk. You go up and introduce myself, etc., and try not to get thrown in jail or anything. And
yeah.
But it's just what we have to do. And word of mouth's getting around. The more success you have, and CSA does a pretty good job getting us out on all the websites and all the social networking. And so yeah, it's every year. I basically try to go the strategy of when I'm doing my recruiting. If we can find a new player every year, we'll be off to the races. And it's kind of been doing that the last few years, where we try to find a little gem out of nowhere and go from there. Right. Because there's thousands and thousands of players in, especially the Ontario region, that I guarantee you have CP or have had acquired brain injury that don't know about our program.
So, as you were talking, I wanted to ask you, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I know that there are different clubs that do, programs and
right.
things like that. Maybe it's open tryouts or that kind of thing, but it's not necessarily as organized or like it's not as clear, for people who want to find out about how to try out or
right.
how to get connected with you. So, what could be done, within the limits of let's say whatever it is, budget or time or anything like that, let's say to get more people who have CP, maybe young athletes, young soccer players, to know about the programs that you offer, and then even bringing in, like you said, even adults or people that could get into the senior team.
Yeah.
What can be done?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, it's the $1 million question. So we have Matt Greenwood, who you probably know in Pickering and that. I mean, he's the number one man for the World Disabilities. He's brilliant. And we got John Club in Calgary that works with him, all that. So they work with a lot of different disabilities and that. The question is, can we find So I believe, I could be wrong, but Matt's probably on the call. He's probably watching. And probably there might be over 20 clubs that actually run in Ontario that run programs for kids with disabilities, which is absolutely brilliant, right? And when we first started, that's probably we would go to try to find athletes. But now, because the level is so high and the quality, we pretty much, unless they're young, we still find that some young kids there, they're 10, 11, 12, 13, which we do have. We have a lot of those right now that we know of. So it'll be great another 10 years from now. But we need to find people that are playing soccer, like 14, 15, 16, 17 to 35 years old, in the able-bodied world. And I've said it to the CSA a million times, and it's not so easy just to do this, but in the perfect world, they would send an email to every single soccer player in North America. That's 900 and something thousand kids and adults,
Right.
and just explain their program. Now, it's not so easy to do that, obviously. But then they would, not only would they see that and hear that email with a video or something, then they'd know, sorry, well, I got a friend who has CP. Oh, I know somebody who play. And then we would have a lot of players probably. Now, I don't think that's so easy. I don't think that's possible, but that's sort of how we work. I try to deal with all the presidents and technical directors all right across Canada all the time and saying, how can we get the message out? And they're all great. Everybody's willing to help the program, because once they see it, they all want to be part of it.
Right. Yeah. And I guess, it might be interesting to know, and I don't, maybe you touched on it, Drew, but like how many people are there, let's say in Ontario that have CP, and perhaps by knowing that number and the percentage of the population, you could try to, or where they're located, where they live, you could try to target it to those clubs.
Yeah. I mean,
there's the numbers.
We do. I couldn't come to you right now, but it's in our notes. We know the breakdown of people right across Canada, not necessarily CP, but how many disability, blah, blah, that way.
Yeah.
And there's other sports. I mean, Derek Whitson, who's played, well, not now, but currently was on the sledge hockey team during the World Championships many times, et cetera, et cetera. And he played for us as a keeper, and he was the perfect FT1. Good athlete, big boy, strong kid, and dislocated a shoulder playing hockey, and kind of put a stop this soccer and hockey, but he's talking to me about again once in a while and getting the bug a little bit again. So there's also, you could play multi-sports, but depending what sports number one, the other people, they don't, kind of like me, I probably wouldn't want people coming taking Sammy away and say, let's go play whatever, another sport or swimming or something, and then other clubs would be the same way with us trying to, I've gone to track, Ontario holds pair of track and field events all the time.
Right.
And myself and my assistant coach are sitting in the bleachers watching, and you think about dirty looks. I can tell you, I'm just here looking at the sun. It's a nice day, right? But yeah, so it's so some of the kids that don't make the highest level, then they would lead to come try soccer and vice versa, and that, right? So I don't think anybody wants to steal anybody's players or competitors at the highest level, but if you play, we've got quite a few soccer players are quite now good enough for the higher level, and we encourage them to go try another sport, whatever that may be, right? So yeah, that's one way of potentially finding some help.
Right. Yeah. And maybe even through what we're doing, and promoting this particular webinar and sending it out there. Hopefully it inspires some people. I mean, personally, I think something along the lines of what you've suggested, which would be communication going from clubs directly to their membership, and to let them know, and similar to what Matt Greenwood has done in the past, where he was, but more province-wide rather than just in a few of the different areas.
No, it's this program is the ideal thing, right? And people are, I mean, I still have some of my best friends, and I don't mean this disrespectful, but some of my best friends, and I mean best friends, still think I coach Special Olympics. Right? They don't know the difference between Special Olympics and para sport. Right. So I explained to them the Special Olympics is one of the best programs in the world, right? But that's not what I do. And some people think, I mean, I'm talking to people I golf with 3 days a week. It's like I go, no, and that's just the thing. So it's just, we've hosted 2 events in Canada, both in Toronto. One was the regionals, and one was the PanAms. And we thought that, well, it did. If we got a little bit of exposure and found a player or two from those events, and maybe getting another event in Canada one day, in the near future, would be a good opportunity again, right? So that would be one of the biggest exposures, and maybe that's something that the CSA and ourselves can bang heads about and trying to get a tournament back here again.
Right. Yeah. It's one of the reasons why I asked you at the beginning just to talk about the sport in general, because perhaps not everybody knows, and I think you made an interesting point, which is that with the 7-a-side and the rules being what they are, like with no offsides and all that, there does tend to be, like, the games are very exciting, right? So it is something that I think that you could probably get a pretty good fan base if more people knew about it, right?
Yeah, yeah. If they only knew, if they come watch Sam play and a few of our other players and some of the players from the other country. I mean the Brazilians and them. I mean they're just like the men's national team. Their touches and moves and fancy stuff. It's absolutely brilliant.
Right.
But they love the game. They sing after the games are over. They're on the bus. They know the sort of. I mean I say this a lot, and it's almost to a certain extent sort of the same in the big world years ago. So like when I was in BC and I was playing for the under 16s and 18s and gold medal Canadian championships, Canada Games, and that Canada in the 70s, early 70s, and that when I was playing, we were winning and doing a lot. Mm-hmm. And my philosophy of that was because we played 12 months a year. Right? And in Ontario, way before the bubbles and everything came, we were in general winning most of those things we competed in. Then all of a sudden the domes come, and now they're playing 12 months a year, and Ontario's beating BC soccer and this and that, and they're just playing all the time, right? Just a fact. It's very simple, right? And in Brazil and all these other countries, they're playing soccer since they're 2, and in our disability, when we have disability kids, they're scared for the kids to play events or play soccer, maybe sledge hockey. So there's a big disadvantage. It's like a lot of our kids, of Sammy is a little different. Sammy was this little star by the time he was probably 10, 11 years old in the soccer world. But not a lot of kids with disabilities start playing soccer early, but they may catch on to it as they get to 15, 16, 17, right? So there's definitely advantage of that.
Yeah, I've spoken and written quite a bit about this, about perhaps, in sports here, in soccer specifically, but in many sports, we get the idea of late specialization wrong, because technically speaking, late specialization only means you focus only on your one sport when you're older, but it doesn't mean that you don't play it a lot, or perhaps doesn't mean that you don't play the sport every day,
right?
Coming through from whatever age. And I'm sure you guys have been to South America, you've competed against these. I lived and worked in Uruguay, which is a real hotbed for the sport, obviously, and they play several hours a day. Whether it's organized or not, they play all the time, and of course by the time they're teenagers, they're so much more skillful than everybody else, and I'm sure the same applies whether it's para soccer or
well, you go to Brazil. We've been to Brazil twice now, or 3 times, and the one time he stayed right on the beach, Copacabana Beach.
Copacabana, right? Yeah.
and they're playing soccer, volleyball, and there's guys there that aren't even professionals, and they got more skill than anybody in all of Canada I know. We just sat there and watched it. It was mind-boggling. Right? Bringing it down their chest, scissor kicks over top of the net, backboard, and I'm like, what do you play soccer at a certain level? No, we don't even have a job. Really, just so they're touch. Sammy is talking about touches on the ball. These guys sit on the beach for 8 hours doing that, right?
Yeah.
And so you talk about touches,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting point, and I'll bring it back. And I know you mentioned, Sam. You mentioned sort of what you're doing to prepare, and how part of it is pickup soccer, part of it is obviously in the pro game when you can in Australia, and hooking up with the other clubs in Ottawa and all that. So do you think that the majority of players in the national team, Sam, are let's say training as much as you are? Are they in similar environments as you? Is it kind of mix and match? Like,
I think it's a mix and match. Like for us, just it also depends on where you are in the country, right? I'm lucky enough, like I'm in Ottawa, and there's clubs like left, right, and center that are kind of close and things like that. But I think it's again a mix and match of players that because I'm still 25. Like I did my university. I was playing at university as well, but like I'm trying to find time to play. Like I'm always looking for time to play. So I'm always And that could be also because I don't have like a very serious job, right? Right now I was just coaching and training until I got to Australia, right? So it's those things. Like if I were to get a more serious job, like some of my teammates have, right? Time is gonna get cut. So I'm gonna like lose time to play soccer, and I'm gonna be more serious on job because I need the money. Like life costs a lot of money, right? So especially nowadays, it's getting higher and higher. So some guys do that, and some guys have university. So obviously, like I've been through university, like you need a lot of time to study if you want to do well. So then that takes time away from training, that takes time away from playing. So it's about finding the right balance, and not everyone's balance is the same, right? Everyone's balance is different. So as long as you're able to balance both and continue to grow in both, then I think that's the perfect mix. And it could be 60-40, it could be 75-25. Like everyone's different. Everyone has different jobs, different avenues of what they want to do in life. And I think it's very important to just find a time to have fun once in a while as well, right? We talk about being serious and always, getting the job right and playing for your country, which is serious, but it's also about having fun. It's about why you fell in love with the sport in the first place, right? Why do you fall in love? Because you're playing, you're running, you make friends, you meet new people, you go to places where you never thought you would. Like this team allowed me to go see places that I never thought I would, and I fell in love with traveling that way. So I think it's about also seeing the fun side of it, and kind of taking a step back and enjoying it as well, not just, oh, it's serious, oh, I have to like train. No, like, yes, you have to train, but you also have to take time for yourself and be like, you know what, like I still love this sport. I still love this sport as much as I did when I started playing when I was 4 years old, right? And I want to continue in this sport for as long as I can until my body doesn't work, right? So like I want to be able to go through these things and still play soccer. So regardless of what I'm doing, I'm gonna play games. I'm gonna train. Maybe it's not as much, maybe it's not as long, but it's something. If it's just playing on a Sunday with my friends at 8 p.m. and then go to work during the week and then having that game once a week, right? As long as I'm playing, I'm gonna fall in love with the game and just play the game.
Yeah, it's good points. I mean, I'll have to remember that what you said, everyone's balance is different, and
Yeah.
definitely, you're kind of speaking about gratitude, right? That being grateful that you have the opportunity to play, to travel, to have these experiences and all that. And yeah, I felt similarly in my own way in some of my own work. So yeah, definitely understand that. I wanted to ask you guys about fitness specifically, and so in the game now, the total distances covered and the total amount of running per player, if we look at, just because of the field being a little smaller or whatever, it's a little bit less than we would see in 11v11 in the senior men's side. But the relative intensity, so what we mean by that is based on the amount of time that you're playing, how fast are you going and how much fast running you're doing, it's actually equal to, if not higher sometimes, than the 11 versus 11 senior game. So that tells me that you have to be very fit. You have to, in addition to, I know you're talking about training, touches on the ball, pickup games, all of that, but let's say specifically on the physical side, outside of the soccer, what else are you doing? And is there anything through the team? Is it on your own as well?
Most of the stuff, because again we're so far away,
Right.
and it's so hard to get together. I think it's most of the stuff is on my own. So the time I find, like I'm also in the gym, so I work on getting stronger, work on building myself as a better athlete, because if you get stronger toward in the gym sense, then it means less injuries. If you're doing it properly, it means less injuries, right? It means less time off and more time in. So the more work you put in and the more work you're willing to put into your body and Obviously, nutrition's a big one as well. Like if you're willing to take care of your body, then your body's gonna thank you later when you're playing games. You're allowed to go that extra. Like your body's saying, okay, yeah, you're exhausted, but you still got 5 minutes to play. Like go for it. Like it allows you to push yourself harder when you do those trainings that are not just soccer related. So going to the gym, doing the fitness side of it, it allows you to elongate your career, like, because as much as getting touches is important, like taking care of yourself and your body and your minds as well is very important. So just having that aspect of off the field training, or if it's just like getting yourself mentally prepared for games, like it's that part is as much as important as getting touches on the ball and training. So that's where you can separate yourself from the other teams, from the other players, and make yourself better as a whole, as a person and as a player.
Right, and maybe I can ask Sam, but Drew, if you want to chime in as well. I know you've been coaching right at this level for a long time. Well, what can you say about the speed of the game, the fitness level of the players, how it's progressed over the past let's say decade or so?
We're lucky that Sammy is that driven. Yeah. Right. And there's not even, I bet there's some people in the able-bodied world that aren't that driven.
100%
in the biggest leagues. Like I say, fall on the ground, who cares? I'll be offside anyhow. But but yeah, I mean, and one factor that I'll mention to you, which is a lack of driving people, is when the program was in the Paralympics, then all the athletes are carded, right? So they're getting paid so much money a month. They're getting their cell phones. They're getting this. They're getting that. As soon as they removed it, wasn't our fault or the player's fault. It was IPC removed it. The carding went away, right? So you're missing out on $20,000 a year. You're missing out on this, missing that. So now, less is commitment, which most of our guys are pretty good now. But in the years past, I say, listen, you got to be training 5 days a week. Here's the program. Do this, that. And they're like, well, I got to work. You guys don't give us any more money, right? That's their comeback.
Right.
So those people aren't around anymore because they still have to have a proper attitude. So we're getting better, but I don't blame them. They're married. They have kids. They're trying to make a living, and that extra money they use to become a better player by, they can get the money to pay for a gym, fitness place, do this. They could hire you. They could hire somebody else and do that, right? If you have parents that are very wealthy, that's a bonus. If you have parents that are fighting, struggling to make their own living for their kids, then it's not, right? So there's a mental side of it. And talk about not being depressed, but losing that money from representing your country did hurt a lot of our players. Right. And some players went to another sport, tell you the truth, because they were getting funded. Soccer players are usually very fit and good, so they could compete at other levels, right? Mm-hmm. We have one player, Liam Stanley, who was brilliant, absolutely brilliant player. Now he's, I believe, Sammy can correct me because he's in touch with him all the time, but I think he holds a world record for the 1,500 meters in his category, and he's still competing at the highest level. So he's 1 and 2 in the world for the last 7-8 years. So good for him, right?
Right.
So that's hard, but yeah, I mean, there's some players that kind of casual, and Sammy will tell you that I'm not the happiest coach when I see somebody show up at camp that's not very fit, and they hear about that and they know it's bye-bye or get fit, right? So I don't like putting pressure on them. I want them doing that themselves for the love of the game and trying to represent Canada. But sometimes you have to give them a kick in the butt to get them going. And, Sammy, it's just automatic for him. He's been doing it since he's a kid, and because of his love for the game, right? So another 8 or 9 Sammys and would be off to the races, right?
Right. Would you say that, and I think you might have touched on this a little bit, but let's say in the last, 10 years or 15 years, that is the difference in level of ability between Canada and the top nations, is that gap, like maybe there's a gap, but is it closing more, or has it gone wider?
I think we've closed down on the top. I mean, we started, we were way out of the rankings and not even know about the rankings, and slowly crawled up in that. There's teams that would beat us comfortably all the time, right? 8-0, 10-0, and we're beating those teams now. And I mean, realistically, the top 8 in the world have been the top 8 for as long as I know, for 20 years or something, they're just there because they're that good. And it's just so Canada, Australia, and a few of those teams at that 9, 10, 11, we're pushing the next. We're not pushing the 1 and 2, and we could upset them in a game, but we're not pushing them to say, yeah, we're as good as them. But we're definitely knocking on the door of that 8, 7, 6 type thing. So yeah, it's getting better. And in all fairness to this event, we're not taking our strongest team because of kids being born and having children, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So one of our strongest players, a Brazilian player, actually played for Brazil, but he's Canadian citizenship now. He just couldn't commit to it this year. So we're taking a good side, probably not our strongest side, but the hearts are just as big, I hope, when we get there to do the job.
Yeah, it's interesting, and so the gap has closed a bit despite some of these challenges, and maybe that speaks to the just the character, the all of the the work ethic, all the things that both of you kind of mentioned, right? Which even in the face of more challenges than some of the competition has to deal with, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, Australia's been great. They're a lot like Canada. But for the last 4 or 5 years, their federation supports them, as in backing them up and uniforms, but they've actually done fundraisers to raise like $100,000 so they can come to these events.
Wow.
Right? Where the CSA is not, we don't have to do fundraising, they're looking at. So I think, the CSA and ourselves, and then again, TFCs and Kitchener's and Oakville's and them, we train, they give us the facilities, they don't charge us for facility. They're very, I don't know why, if it's me or if they like the players or what it is, but they're great. They don't, we don't, in general, they're nice enough to give us facilities to train. And that alone saves us probably $10,000 a year right there. So it's a big family. And like I said, when people see it, when they actually see the program, I mean, there's probably 20 or 30 technical directors right across Canada. Every time if we're training at their facility, they come and watch it. The first thing they say, "Do you need an assistant coach?" First thing they say to me, because they want to go on trips and they like what they see. Right? It's brilliant. So yeah, so we're not pluggers, but we're plugging along and we're knocking on the door of those top 8.
Got it. Well, I definitely want to ask you specifically about the World Cup. So when is it happening, and what's the timeline from now until then?
For the World Cup or Santiago? For the World Cup?
First, well, yeah, you can talk about.
Well, they're both. So what they've done just recently, FIFA's been talking about it. Our federation has done it now. So we're actually having a World Cup every 2 years now. So it used to be a World Cup, and then 2 years later was a World Championship, and then 2 years later was the World Cup. So right now they're going to World Cup, regionals, World Cup, whatever, World Cup. So this event here is important. So there's 16 teams qualify for the World Cup every year. So the last World Cup we got in through the back door by not qualifying because 3 of our regions went. So Brazil, Argentina, USA went. So there was about a total of 12 teams that actually qualified by regional play. Right. But we got through because we were ranked number 9th or 10th. I think we were number 10th last year that we got in the back door. Right. So the idea here is, can we get to come in at the best or at the worst, finish 4th and almost guarantee us keeping our points to keep us in that level again, right? So when I look at the program, we have to beat Venezuela, which is one team. We're 50-50. They beat us, we beat them. It's actually a good match. It's 4-4, 3-3. It's always pretty competitive. And then Chile himself, who I know nothing about because they've just started the last couple of years and they're hosting, so they're in. So there's actually stronger teams. Well, I don't know that. I presume there's stronger teams in our region versus them. Right. So before I leave, I'll be tracking down a couple of Brazilians and talk to people. Have you seen them? What they've done, right? So if we can beat them in the round robin play, then it'll guarantee us that bronze medal game, and it potentially should keep us in that top 12 or 13 in the world.
Right. Okay. And when is that happening?
So the World Cup will be last year. So it'll be next year. There's a World Cup and there's a World Championship. So what they're calling is the top 16 will be World Cup. It's 17 and down to play the World Championships. Okay. And I believe they're both in Spain. I believe one's in April and one's in June or July.
Right. Okay.
Spain is the hotbed of the CP soccer world. So we've probably been to Spain. I don't know. We've been so many people say, "Oh, you going to Barcelona?" I said, "I've been there like 5 times. It'd be nice to go play somewhere else, right?" But I mean, we've been all over the world. But they get great funding from So there's if I took the top 15 teams, there's only about 4 that are run by the soccer federations. Right? So England's run by the federation, US is run by the federation, Holland's run by the federation, et cetera, et cetera. But Brazil, Argentina, the Ukraine, they're all run by their cerebral palsy sports associations. Right. And because soccer is their number 1 sport in those countries, they get all the funding, right? So if we were ran by our cerebral palsy sports association, so bocce is a huge sport, so they get a lot of the funding, et cetera, right? So we actually get no funding from them and don't ask for it. We understand that's how it works. But in Brazil, the federation doesn't even, they wear the colors of the Brazilian team, but they're not affiliated with the Brazilian team.
They're not involved. Yeah, it's the CP association of the country, right? Yeah, right.
And they get huge. The government throws money at them. They're in Brazil. I think there's 32 different club cerebral palsy teams, and they play a full-time league, like 8 months or 9 months a year, like they play. That's how, and then they pick their best players from all those people. So 32 times 20 players. That's a lot of players.
You have a huge talent pool, and all playing professionally, and all.
Yeah, well, they're all getting paid, and they're all doing that way. Yeah,
paid.
Yeah.
So
but we can compete with them.
Yeah, it makes it all the more impressive that Canada is competing with all of these top nations. So that's great. So,
and just getting back to fitness a little bit, we only play 30-minute halves. That's the other difference that we play, but on a huge field. So you talk about the fitness level. So someone like Sammy, say, who can fly. So we play him in different positions, but he can play a deeper midfield role and read the game so well. And maybe one sloppy pass across, and he can intercept that 60 yards from the goal. And with only a big field with a 7-a-side, he just has to go by 2 people full speed, and he's on his own. He's got a breakaway, right?
Right.
So his fitness makes a huge difference, where a lot of people wouldn't be able to run 60 yards at full speed, and only have to deal with 1 guy or 2 guys, and the poor guy is standing there and he's running at him full speed. So Sammy does that probably 80 times a game. So
as I said, and I don't know if you guys right now are using any GPS.
Yeah, we did the World Cup. They were all had them. Yeah.
So I've seen some of the data, and obviously in an absolute sense, okay, the halves are shorter, the field is smaller, so the numbers are not the same as they would be 11, but the relative amounts are equal, if not
absolutely.
More.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So there isn't a difference, and I wonder then if you start to look at fitness test data. I've not looked, but I wonder if the players are equally fit despite whatever challenges they have with running.
Right.
Maybe the top speeds aren't quite the same, but
if your FT1s numbers are going to be way different than FT2s, and FT2 is going to be way different than FT3.
Yeah.
But it's all relevant, right?
Yeah.
So you compare them to other FTV1s, not FT3s, right? You look at that and go from that side of it.
Right. Yeah.
Hello, can I just chime in? I know we're getting close to our hour mark, so we're going to wrap it up soon. But if you don't mind, Richard, I have a couple questions. Or
of course, yeah.
Is that okay, guys?
Of course.
So first of all, I have seen the team play when they were in Toronto, and I can watch you play when the PanAm Games, I guess, or PanAm. And let me tell you, that 7-a-side is very, very exciting. It's entertaining, and if you're looking to support the team, you're going to be entertained. Fast paced, very exciting. I just couldn't believe how exciting a 7-a-side game can be. Can we watch any of these games that are going on? Is it streamed anywhere?
Yeah, most games are streamlined actually. So I'll make sure that we find out once we're there, and I'll get back to you, John, with that. But
I know I went to the information session for all athletes and all sports maybe a week ago, and they said that all the events are going to be streamed on the CBC and Radio Canada, I believe, like online on those streams. I'm not exactly sure because I didn't see it in the PowerPoint anywhere. They just said it out loud. So we don't have that exactly, but as soon as either Drew or myself or anyone on the team finds out where they will be streamed, because I'm most likely 100% sure that they will be streamed. Don't know where, but it will come out to everyone, and I'm sure, because we all have families, we all have friends that want to watch us, so the stream has to come regardless, and we have to tell our parents, we have to tell our friends. So I'm sure that we'll be able to mention it to you guys and everyone once we find out exactly where they will be.
Yeah,
when this video, when this video goes up, if once we get the information from you, we'll post it and share it as well in our own promotion.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll send out a big bulk email to all our members, and also all the coaches that we've accumulated through all our behind the bench sessions. So yeah, very exciting to watch. Now there was something else I noticed this year. There was a 7v7 TST championship, world championship, held in Carolina. I think it's North Carolina or South Carolina, United States. And that was also very exciting. It was different. First time I've ever seen that. Have you guys heard of that?
I have not, no.
No?
I think
okay. They had a $1 million prize they had, and it was shown on NBC. We actually saw it.
Yeah, I think
on regular TV.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
You heard of it? I feel and that was exciting. So this 7v7 game, honestly, if you get a chance to watch it, it's phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. How do you like playing the 7v7, Samuel, versus your regular game?
It's, for me, action will come, because it's not a big field, right? It's very hard to keep possession in your own half, do side to side stuff. It's very hard in this field because it's a big field and you don't have a lot of players. So you have no choice but you have to go forward. You have to come back. You have to, like the fitness part, you have to go up and down the field for 60 minutes. There's no, like Drew said, you can't hide anywhere. You can't, take a walk, because if you walk on the field, like, the team's going to take advantage of that. And then like he said, it's like a power play in hockey. It's a big field, but it's still small. So you can't, there's no time to recover. Like, you have to play and you have to go for it, and you have to move, have to check your shoulder every 2 seconds, because you never know. And especially against the teams you're going to be playing, like, they know the game. Like Brazil, for example, like they'll move, and their right back's gonna go striker, their left back's gonna go center mid. Like, you'll see that fluidity, and as an opposing team, you have to be aware of that at all times, because there's no like middle zone. Like, it's once you cross half, like, someone can shoot, someone can score. Like, it's that action packed. Like, you have no choice but to be aware 100% of the time, because when you're not aware, that's when teams, and the good teams, take advantage of that.
And Samuel, you can shoot and you can score. I've seen you play. You got a bullet. So I think we're excited to watch you play, and I hope all Canadians come and watch you play, because you're so exciting. I don't know if people know, not only the all-time goal-scoring leader for Canadian national para team, but I believe you won a couple of what do they call it? MVPs in the past World Championships. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've won a few MVPs, and like, I'm sure any soccer player will tell you, like, individual awards are great, but you trade that individual award for a team gold medal or a team medal any day of the week. So as much as they're good, and I enjoy them, and I'm surprised sometimes when I get them, like, it's if I'm doing my job for my team, then so be it. And if I get an award for it, like, thank you, but I want, like, that team award. I want that medal. I want the team to do better than not just myself, just the team. So if I'm able to do that, and if I have to do that just myself, and then have the other players come in and do their jobs as well, I'm sure we'll be able to get that medal and upset a few teams.
Of course. But let's think about this. To be an MVP of a World Cup, just imagine that, and it's Canadian.
Yeah.
So, folks, if you're listening, make sure you catch the team. And Drew, I saw a post. I just have to mention this. Played against Georgie Best.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience. And
well, I was. Yeah, I know you're probably running out of time. Yeah, I was very fortunate because I was around in the North American Soccer League in its heyday. So, I mean, Franz Beckenbauer's, Gerd Miller's, Johan Cruyff's, George Best, all of them, all of them we played against him. And George Best was a great friend of John McGrain's, and he'd actually lived with John McGrain. So I got to know Bestie and had a few few pints here and there with him. But that post just came up. I think it was a North American Soccer League Twitter post or something he had, or Facebook it was, and so I made a quick note that it because he was going by me, it said Bestie Swiss by Drew Ferguson, and he had no shin pads, he had his socks down, so I made it clear that I didn't try to kick him because he didn't have any shin pads on. So that was, but yeah, I mean that 78 to 85. I mean some of the best players in the world we're playing against. So it was play with and play against. In fact, Dwight Loda Wages, who you probably know that name, who's a Dutch Canadian. He's coaches professionally. He's actually the assistant manager of the Holland Dutch team now, but he was at Edmonton with us, and yeah, world class players all over the place. So, and the good thing about this job I have is, and I tell the players about all the time, when I travel all over the world and I track down if I'm in Holland, all the Dutch players I played with, they come and we meet up, have a night out, dinner and a beer. And if I'm in England, I'll meet the people I know. And when I was in England last time, the owner of Burton Albion, who I played at Burton Albion for a season, he came and picked me up and took me back to his house for dinner and went out with some of the players. So it's a great experience coaching this team, but the players and myself, we take advantage when you get to travel to see some people you haven't seen in 30 years and played against. And that picture of Best team, he was, I got a kick out of it. It was quite funny, actually.
Good. Okay, I think we've gone over our limit, Richard. So you want to just wrap it up?
We'll wrap it up. Yeah, I mean, I'll thank you guys so much again for your time, and as I said, it's great to to electronically meet you anyway, and I'll look forward to hopefully one day meeting you guys in person and staying in touch, and I hope everyone out there that was watching learned a little more about para soccer and about our team and our coach and our captain, and if you weren't already a fan, I hope we've converted you into a fan and maybe got you a little more excited about watching the team whenever you have a chance, perhaps live and also online whenever we get that information. Thanks again, guys, and I'll say
thanks for being on.
Just to everyone who is watching and will see this video in future, remember our organization is a group of volunteers. We need your support. Continue to watch, continue to sign up and register for these webinars and any of our other events online or live. There's lots of stuff happening now, coming up. Consider a membership if you don't have one, and help us to continue to do what we're doing and try to grow the game, and specifically to help coaches here in Canada. So thanks.
All right, awesome, guys. Thank you very much. It was brilliant.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.